Chairman Williams, and thank you, Administrator Loeffler, for taking the time to testify today. Time's short, so I'm going to jump right in. Were you consulted on President Trump's tariff policy?
Congresswoman, I certainly stay in constant dialogue with President Trump. There is no stronger advocate of small business than President Trump. He knows that small business is big business, and he also knows that small businesses have been incredibly disadvantaged by unfair trade policy, by an unlevel playing field that not only disadvantages—
Thank you, Administrator. So I assume you support President Trump's tariff policy, I guess if you could call it a policy?
Well, I would say that it's a fair trade policy that has not been in place for 30 years, that has created a massive disadvantage.
Thank you, Administrator. Are you aware of the tariff exemption that President Trump announced on April 11th for smartphones, laptops, and televisions?
Yes, Congresswoman.
Do you support this exemption?
I support the President's actions to ensure that we have fair trade, and that's
Would you
what this is
support a
all about.
tariff exemption for small businesses?
What I support is a level playing field for small
Respectfully,
businesses.
ma'am,
Can I-
just a
can I
yes
just
or
say,
no.
this is what our small businesses have been up against. This book, 400 pages of unfair trade practices.
Respectfully,
leveled at our
Administrator,
small
yes or no,
businesses.
would you support an
This is-
exemption for small businesses from the
I
trade war?
support ensuring our small businesses never
take
have
that
to
as a no.
advocate against this again.
Administrator, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has asked the administration for an exemption for small businesses. Small businesses in my state and across the country are asking for an exemption. Senator Curtis even said to you when you testified in front of the Senate Small Business Committee that small businesses are being hurt by the tariffs and the uncertainty. Without an exemption, they're going to be forced to raise prices for consumers, lay off staff, go out of business. I think it's completely unacceptable that this administration is willing to give exemptions to massive tech corporations who have the resources to lobby the president while disregarding the outcries of small businesses from so many small business owners who are in disbelief. They're frustrated. They're scared that everything they've worked so hard for to build is going to be taken away from them. I urge you to do everything you can to advocate for a tariff exemption for our small businesses as the Small Business Administrator, our nation's leading advocate for small businesses.
Congressman, our president is negotiating fair trade for the first time in 30 years. Who is advocating for the American worker? For Main Street? The president
please,
is.
Administrator.
30
Small businesses
years
need
of
an
5
exemption
million
from the
job
tariff war.
losses.
Okay, I want to turn to our veteran-owned small business owners. I have the honor of serving on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and I'm the wife of an Army combat veteran. In March, we learned that VA canceled over $2 billion in contracts. Reporting suggests that 90% of the canceled contracts were with veteran-owned small businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. I joined my colleagues on this committee and the Veterans Affairs Committee in sending a letter to Secretary Collins to determine how many small business owners were impacted by these contract cuts. We have not received a reply yet from the VA. The SBA may not administer these contracts, but these are small businesses being affected, and the Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business Program is an SBA program. Are you keeping track of how many contracts with Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Businesses or veteran-owned small businesses the VA canceled?
For the first time in 4 years, this administration is back focusing on veterans. We have seen
Administrator, how many small
neglected
businesses
under
are
the
being
last—
impacted by these cuts?
Congressman, we're partnering with the VA, who the veterans will be better off under President Trump. He increased their budget by $5 billion.
Administrator, what is
We're
the
partnering.
SBA doing to support the veteran-owned small businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses impacted by these contract cuts?
I'm the daughter and granddaughter of veterans. I served on the Veterans Affairs Committee in the Senate as well. We are making sure that our veterans are—
Ma'am, respectfully, will you commit to working with Secretary Collins to get us this information,
Absolutely.
please?
I just entered
Thank
into
you.
an MOU with Secretary Collins to ensure that there is that partnership, and I look forward to delivering real
Thank
results.
you.
And was at Joint Base San Antonio last week with veterans.
Wonderful.
on
One
active
final
duty.
question. You say you're focusing on field operations to improve delivery and support to small businesses, especially in rural areas, but you cut the district office workforce by more than 20%. So how do you reconcile the cuts with more support and access to reliable and timely customer service?
Well, I reject the idea that we've cut the field. We've returned people to the field, 90% of who were working from home and not even in the field. So we're strengthening our field organization. We're streamlining it to ensure that they're focused on small businesses.
And have you appointed anyone to head up the Office of Rural Affairs yet?
Yes, Congresswoman, we have.
Wonderful. Looking forward to hearing more about that. There's been a characterization of the way the minority voted on the ridiculously named One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And I just would like to point out that the majority actually voted to take health care away from kids and moms, voted to explode the national debt, and voted to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest among us. Thank you for being here today, Administrator Loeffler, and I yield the remainder of my time.